Let me ask you something. Why is it that nobody has to teach us to celebrate something we really care about? Your team wins the championship? You yell. You hit the lottery? You're probably screaming. If your child scores the winning point, you are out of your seat before you even realize you stood up. Nobody has to say, okay, now demonstrate excitement. It just comes out of you. So I've been wondering, if Calvary is the greatest victory in human history, why can we sometimes celebrate everything else more than we celebrate Jesus? Welcome back to Highlighting the Way. You know, here's something interesting. After the resurrection, Luke 24:52 says, the disciples returned to Jerusalem with great joy. Matthew says the women left the empty tomb with great joy and ran to tell the disciples. John says when the disciples saw the resurrected Jesus, they were glad. The resurrection created a response. But here's something even crazier. Jesus had already talked about this before Calvary. In Luke 19, Jesus enters Jerusalem and his disciples begin rejoicing and praising God with a loud voice. And some of the Pharisees basically said, Jesus, tell your disciples to stop. And Jesus answers, if these were silent, the very stones would cry out. That's powerful. Jesus didn't tell his disciples, guys, tone it down. He defended their praise. Because when you recognize the King, celebration makes sense. And then Paul, Acts 16 says Paul and Silas were beaten and thrown into prison and locked in stocks. And at midnight, they started singing. But there's a detail I love. The prisoners were listening to them. Their praise had an audience. They didn't wait until the prison doors opened to celebrate. They praised God while they were still chained. And an earthquake came, and that's what hit me. Paul didn't praise because the prison opened. Paul praised because Calvary had already happened. Here's the thing. If you spend enough time around people who never outwardly respond to God, eventually that will feel normal. Get around somebody who remembers the addiction, who remembers where God found them, who remembers the depression, who remembers the night they almost quit. Their praise might sound a little different, but there's history behind their hallelujah. Jesus is alive, so maybe today, let's act like we won.